Unesio was the kind of man the world wrote headlines about. Korea's youngest billionaire. A man with a cold gaze and a heart locked behind marble walls. Every camera loved his face. Every business admired his mind. But only one woman had ever known the boy he used to be. Imelda. She wasn't just anyone. She was his childhood friend. The black girl from Nairobi whose laughter once filled the quiet alleys of their small neighborhood, when Junesio's father was still a struggling shop owner in Africa. They had built sandcastles, shared noodles, and made promises that the world later made him forget. Now, years later, they met again in Seoul. Imelda had grown into a confident woman, a travel writer visiting South Korea for a cultural project. When she stepped into the glass building of JS Group, she didn't expect to face her childhood friend, the man the media called the Ice Prince. Junesio? She whispered in disbelief. He froze when he saw her. The girl from his memories stood before him in a white dress, her curls glowing under the city lights, her smile still the same but her eyes more mature, like a dream he had once buried under wealth and pride. Junesio offered to take her around Seoul. For days they wandered through places no one would ever believe the cold billionaire could go. Street food markets, small cafes, art galleries. But soon his emotions started to twist. At a dinner party he saw Imelda laughing with another man, a famous photographer from France. Her laughter was soft, pure, and free, just like before. But to Junesio it was like someone stealing his only memory of warmth. He clenched his glass. Who is he? Imelda raised a brow. A colleague, Junesio. Don't tell me you're jealous. He smirked coldly. Jealous? You think I... But before she could finish, he suddenly pulled her close, his breath trembling, his heartbeat wild. The room spun as his lips crashed into hers. A desperate, possessive, jealous kiss that silenced everything around them. For a moment, time stopped. The air was thick with emotion, and her body froze, confused but drawn to the warmth she hadn't felt in years. When he finally pulled back, his voice cracked. I don't know what came over me, he whispered, but I can't stand seeing you with anyone else. That kiss changed everything. Imelda couldn't stop thinking about him. His scent lingered. His voice haunted her dreams. She tried to focus on her work, but her heart betrayed her. She became obsessed with him, in the softest, most uncontrollable way. She found herself waiting for his messages, checking the mirror before meeting him, memorizing every word he said. The once innocent friendship began to melt into something deeper, more dangerous. And Junesio? He was no better. The kiss had awoken emotions he'd long buried. He started appearing at her hotel unannounced, taking her to his private villa, cooking for her at midnight, whispering apologies between touches. You make me weak, Imelda, he confessed one night under the stars. I built empires to protect myself from pain, but one look at you, and everything collapses. She touched his face gently. Maybe it's not a weakness, Junesio. Maybe it's love trying to find its way back. Their nights were filled with emotion. Slow dances in his penthouse, late-night confessions, shared laughter, and gentle kisses that carried both guilt and passion. Junesio showed her the world he never let anyone see. His hidden art studio, his late mother's piano, his secret charity for children in Africa, her home. And Imelda, with her warmth and laughter, began to melt the ice that had imprisoned him for years. But with love came fear. The media started to notice. Billionaire seen with mystery African woman. Who is she? Yet Junesio didn't care anymore. He stood in front of the cameras one morning, holding her hand. Her name is Imelda, he said boldly. She's not my secret. She's my peace. Imelda's eyes filled with tears. That was the moment she knew. It wasn't just jealousy that made him kiss her. It was love, rediscovered and reborn through years of silence. Months later, they returned to the small African neighborhood where it all began. Under the same tree where they'd once carved their initials as children, Junesio knelt, holding a small ring made from the same wood. From the day I kissed you, he said softly, my world hasn't been the same. You're not just my first friend, Imelda. You're my last love. She smiled, tears glistening. Then kiss me again, Junicio. Not from jealousy this time, but from love. And when their lips met again, it wasn't desperate or confused. It was pure, gentle, and endless. That kiss became the beginning of forever. A love born from friendship, shaped by jealousy, and sealed by destiny. The wedding was unlike anything Seoul had ever seen. Junicio didn't want opulence. He wanted meaning. They held the ceremony in a garden overlooking the Han River, adorned with white lilies and Ethiopian roses, a symbol of their two worlds joining as one. As Imelda walked down the aisle, her golden-brown skin glowed against her ivory dress, her curls crowned with tiny pearl pins. Junicio stood waiting, his usual coldness gone, replaced with eyes that only saw her. When their hands met, he whispered, "You're my miracle." And as they exchanged vows, Imelda's voice trembled with emotion. "You once kissed me out of jealousy," she said softly. "But today, I kiss you out of choice, because you are my forever home." The crowd fell silent, many in tears. And when their lips touched, it wasn't a kiss of passion. It was a promise, sealed with the tenderness of two souls who had waited too long to find each other again. After marriage, Junicio surprised everyone. The ruthless businessman began to transform. He redirected part of his billion-dollar empire to form a foundation called the Imelda Project, a global initiative that provided scholarships and business grants for African and Korean youth who dreamed of building together. "We'll teach them," he said one night, holding Imelda close in their bed. "That love between cultures isn't just possible, it's powerful." Imelda smiled, tracing her finger along his jawline. "And I'll make sure the world sees the heart behind the name Junicio. Not the billionaire, but the boy who once shared noodles under the African sun." They began traveling between Seoul and Nairobi, building schools, art centers, and joint programs connecting African creativity with Korean innovation. The world started calling them the Bridge Couple. 2 years later, their home was filled with laughter. Imelda gave birth to a baby boy, June Eli, named after Junicio's mother and Imelda's late father. His skin was a beautiful blend of both worlds. His eyes carried his father's warmth and his mother's light. Junicio couldn't stop staring at him. "He's perfect," he whispered, voice shaking. "I never knew love could multiply like this." Imelda smiled weakly, tired but glowing. "Now you know, love isn't built in boardrooms, Junicio. It's built in moments like this." That night, Junicio held his son in one arm and his wife in the other, realizing that his greatest empire wasn't his company. It was them. Their love matured like fine wine. Imelda continued writing, her latest book titled The Billionaire Who Kissed Me Twice Back, becoming an international bestseller. She wrote not about wealth, but about healing, forgiveness, and the power of crossing boundaries with love. Sometimes, when the city grew too loud, they'd retreat to their countryside villa. Imelda would sit at the piano his mother once played, while Junicio painted beside her. One evening, as golden light filled the room, Junicio came behind her and kissed her neck gently. "Every time I hear you play," he murmured, "I remember the girl who taught me how to laugh again." Imelda smiled, her hands still on the keys. "And every time you paint, I see the man who kissed me not out of pride, but out of love." Years passed, but their story continued to inspire millions. The Imelda Foundation became a global symbol of unity, funding joint Korean-African projects in technology, fashion, and education. Their love wasn't just written in hearts. It was carved into history. One afternoon, at the opening of a new cultural center in Nairobi, a young journalist asked Junicio, "Sir, what's the secret behind your success?" Junicio turned to Imelda, who was laughing with children nearby. His eyes softened. "My secret," he said, smiling. She taught me that love isn't meant to be hidden behind fear or pride. It's meant to be loud." As the sun set, he walked toward her, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "From jealousy came love, and from love came forever." Imelda looked up, her eyes shimmering with tears. "And forever," she said softly, "isn't long enough for us." Years later, Long after the world had crowned them legends, a framed photo hung in their home. A picture of their first kiss, taken by accident at that soul party. Below it, engraved in gold, were the words Junasio wrote himself. That jealous kiss was my mistake, but loving you forever became my destiny. And every morning, as the sun rose over their home, Junasio still kissed Imelda like it was that first night. Only now, it wasn't out of jealousy. It was out of a love that had finally found its home. Their home wasn't a mansion. It was a sanctuary, a place where luxury met warmth, where love spoke louder than money. Nestled on the green hills outside Seoul, Junasio and Imelda's villa was surrounded by cherry blossoms and Ethiopian coffee trees they planted together. The soft scent of flowers mixed with roasted coffee beans every morning, reminding them of the two worlds their love had joined. Every sunrise began the same way. Imelda would be in the kitchen, humming softly as she brewed Ethiopian coffee. Junasio, usually buried in business calls, would sneak behind her and wrap his arms around her waist. "Still the world's most beautiful CEO's wife," he'd whisper against her neck. She'd smile, pretending to protest. "And still the most playful billionaire who can't make toast without burning it." He'd laugh, kiss her shoulder, and say, "That's because I was too busy loving you." Then, they'd share breakfast on the terrace overlooking the mountains, talking about everything, from business ideas to their son's latest words. Every moment was simple but filled with tenderness. Their marriage became a model of love in balance, between success and simplicity, duty and affection. In the evenings, they'd take slow walks in their garden, holding hands as the lights of Seoul glittered below them. Sometimes, they'd talk about their early days, laughing at how jealousy had started it all. One evening, as they sat by the fire pit, Junasio took Imelda's hand. "You know, I used to think power meant control," he said quietly. "But real power is waking up every morning and still being the man you deserve." Imelda leaned her head on his shoulder. "And real wealth," she whispered, "is having someone who never stops choosing you." Those words became the motto of their life and the heart of their foundation. Their Imelda Foundation flourished beyond imagination. IT-funded schools, technology labs, and cultural exchange programs across Africa and Asia. Every project bore their joint signature, "Love builds bridges." Junasio handled strategy and investments, while Imelda personally mentored young women. She helped them discover confidence, creativity, and leadership. Whenever she spoke at events, her message was always the same. "I am not a success because I married a billionaire. I am a success because together, we built love that serves others." Her voice touched millions. Meanwhile, Junasio used his influence to change corporate culture in Korea, encouraging diversity, inclusion, and global cooperation. CEOs who once mocked him now admired his courage. "Behind my boldness," he once said at a conference, "is a woman who taught me that the strongest empires are built on compassion." At night, when the world quieted down, their home glowed with serenity. They'd often end their day in the rooftop garden, lying under soft blankets, gazing at stars. Junasio would rest his head on Imelda's lap while she traced shapes in the sky with her fingers. "Do you ever regret anything?" she asked one night. He smiled faintly. "Only that I didn't kiss you sooner." Imelda chuckled, brushing his hair away from his forehead. "That jealous kiss turned into a lifetime of love. And a legacy the world will never forget," he added softly, kissing her hand. Their home wasn't just filled with laughter. It breathed love. Every wall carried memories. The hallway where Junasio once chased Imelda with flour during their first baking disaster. The piano room where she sang lullabies to their son. The balcony where they danced barefoot in the rain. Even their son, little Junili, felt it. Every night, he'd run to their room, curl between them, and say, "Mommy, Daddy, promise you'll never stop loving?" Junasio would smile, pulling him close. "Never, because love built this home." As the years went by, the world recognized their impact. Universities named scholarships after them. Their foundation opened branches in 12 countries. And yet, they remained humble, always returning to the same hilltop villa where their story had truly begun. In their garden stood a statue, a pair of hands holding a heart, carved from Korean jade and African wood. Below it was an inscription written by Juneseo himself. 2 hearts, 2 worlds, 1 love that changed everything. Every anniversary, they'd stand before it, renew their vows, and seal it with a kiss. Not fiery or rushed, but gentle, deep, and eternal. That was their secret. They didn't just live for love, they lived as love. Years later, people spoke of them not just as the billionaire and his wife, but as the couple who proved love can unite nations. And whenever travelers visited their home, they could still feel the warmth in the air, as if the walls whispered the same truth. From jealousy came a kiss. From that kiss came love. And from love came a legacy that the world will never forget. The years flowed like gentle rivers through their home. Time silvered Juneseo's hair and softened Imelda's steps, but their love never dimmed. It only grew quieter, deeper, more sacred. Their mornings remained the same. Coffee together at dawn, laughter echoing through the hallways, and a shared kiss that began every day like a prayer. Even when the world outside changed, their hearts stayed rooted in the same promise they made under the African sun and the Korean moon. To love without measure, to live without fear. One golden afternoon, they sat together in their garden, the same place where cherry blossoms met Ethiopian roses. Junilai had grown into a fine young man, leading their foundation with a heart as kind as his mother's and a mind as strong as his father's. Junso leaned on his cane, gazing at the blossoms. "Do you remember, Imelda, the first time I kissed you?" She smiled faintly, her fingers brushing his. "How could I forget? You were jealous, stubborn, and foolish." He chuckled softly. "And that foolish kiss ruined me for every other woman on earth." Her laughter mingled with the wind, tender and fragile. "No, my love," she whispered. "That kiss saved you, and it saved me too." They sat in silence, their hands intertwined, as the sky turned gold and lilac. The world around them glowed with everything they had built. Schools, bridges, stories, and lives touched by their love. That night, Juneseo found Imelda resting on the balcony, wrapped in a soft shawl. The moonlight painted her face with peace. He walked up behind her and pressed a gentle kiss on her forehead. "You've been my home, Imelda. Not this house, not this life you." Tears welled in her eyes. She turned to him and whispered, "Then promise me, when my time comes, you'll keep loving me, even beyond here." Juneseo smiled through trembling lips. "Love doesn't end, my heart. It just changes rooms." He kissed her once more, slow, lingering, eternal. The kind of kiss that carried decades of laughter, pain, and gratitude. When Imelda's gentle light finally faded from the world, Juneseo kept his promise. Every morning, he still brewed her favorite coffee. He still sat on the terrace to watch the sunrise, whispering her name to the wind. And at night, he walked into their garden, where the statue of the 2 hearts stood. One evening, as the sky burned with sunset, he sat before it, smiling softly. "Wait for me, my love," he murmured. "I'm almost home." And when the wind blew, carrying the scent of blossoms and coffee, he closed his eyes and finally joined her. Years later, their son Junilai turned their hilltop home into the Juneseo and Imelda Peace Center, a place where people from every nation came to learn about love, unity, and hope. Visitors often said that when the evening light fell through the garden, they could still see 2 silhouettes sitting together under the cherry trees, hands entwined, hearts at peace. Beneath the statue, a golden plaque read, "Here rests a love that began with jealousy, bloomed through faith, and lives forever in every heart it touches." And so, their story never truly ended, because real love, the kind that crosses oceans and outlives time, doesn't die. It just keeps on shining, forever to every heart that has ever loved beyond fear, beyond distance, beyond time. May you find a love that builds you, heals you, and never lets you go. The world had changed, but their love never aged. Even when the seasons shifted and the world moved on, Junisio and Imelda's hearts beat for each other like a timeless song, a melody too strong for death to silence. Their home stood high on a hill, kissed by wind and sunlight, wrapped in blossoms that whispered stories of yesterday. Every wall carried laughter, every corner a memory, and every sunset painted the warmth of two souls who had once promised forever. After Imelda's passing, Junisio walked the garden each evening, his heart filled not with sorrow but with gratitude. He often spoke to her, as though she were still beside him. "Imelda," he'd murmur softly, "you taught me to love with courage. You made my empire human." And in one quiet twilight, as golden light faded into violet, he felt the familiar warmth of her presence. The soft scent of roses and coffee surrounded him. His lips curved into a tender smile. "I feel you," he whispered. "I've missed you, my heart." Then, as the wind brushed his face, he closed his eyes, and a calm peace enveloped him. It was not an ending, it was a return. When Junili found his father the next morning, Junisio was seated peacefully on the garden bench, his hand resting over Imelda's favorite shawl. His face carried no pain, only contentment, as though he had finally gone home to her. They were buried side by side beneath the tree where it all began, under petals of cherry blossoms and Ethiopian roses. Engraved on their shared headstone were the words that once defined their journey. From jealousy came a kiss, from that kiss came love, from that love came forever. And even now, travelers say that when dusk falls over the Soul Hills, two silhouettes can be seen walking hand in hand among the blossoms. Her laughter in the breeze, his whisper in the wind. Love didn't end. It simply became eternal. Their story reminds the world that love is not defined by color, culture, or distance, but by the courage to stay, to fight, and to forgive. Junisio and Imelda built bridges between continents, but their greatest creation was something simpler, deeper, and everlasting. A love that turned two worlds into one heart. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also like, share, and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.